The SRS heads to Slinger Speedway for the first time, and we see an Andretti score the victory in one of the best SRX races of the 2021 season. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. I just got done watching the SRX race from Slinger, and I have to say that this is not only one of the best races I think I have seen in the SRX, probably the best race so far I've seen in the SRX, but this is probably the best, one of the best races I have overall collectively seen so far in all the races I watched from IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA, any series of motorsports that I've seen this year. This is probably up there as one of the best races I have ever seen. So we're going to go through the heat races, and then we'll go through the main event and go through everything. So let's go ahead and just jump into the heat races. So in heat number one, the heat would basically be dominated by Marco Andretti. The only thing that really happened in the first heat of the event was some issues between Ernie Francis Jr. and Paul Tracy. Ernie Francis Jr. got into the back of Paul Tracy and basically kind of spun him, unfortunately. Then Paul Tracy basically retaliated late in the base, and then he brought out the caution due to having a flat tire. That was on Paul Tracy, in my opinion. He's kind of had it coming with the way he's been racing so far, and he would bring out the only other caution in the race. He basically brought out two cautions, and then Marco Andretti basically pulled away and won the first heat of the event. Heat 2 was actually definitely very interesting because he basically had an inversion of the field where the front runners had to start in the back like Luke Fenhaus and Marco Andretti, and he had the guys like Hailie Deegan and Michael Waltrip that was start up front. Early in the race, Hailie Deegan, in my opinion, arguably had the best car in the early portions of this event. She pulled out to about a second and a half lead, and then they threw the fun flag with around 6 minutes to go in the heat. Again, I'm not a big fan of the fun flag. I'll talk about that here at the end of this. And she unfortunately lost it because of the fun flag, and she got passed by Greg Biffle late in the event, and Greg Biffle would pull away and end up winning heat number 2 of the event. Because of that, we would see a couple, basically, Andretti and Luke Fenhaus basically start on the front row due to them having, the best starting draws up to that point. Andretti finished really well in both heats. So then because of your collective points you get, he would start up front, and Luke Fenhaus, the winner of the Slinger Nationals, would start on the front row. We go green, and on the start, we would see incredible side-by-side racing between Marco Andretti and Luke Fenhaus. Fenhaus led at points, and then Andretti led. And then eventually, we would see, Tony Stewart would get up in the mix. His car started coming good, and we see those two both go side by side, and it will remain like that for a majority of the race. We would see, of course, at points them clear at points, but really for a majority of the first hit, for the first caution, we would see them go side by side and go. They would be the two best cars a majority of this race. Then the first cautious race will come out for the fun flag once again, and as we bunch up the field once again. And then we get back into the racing where we see Luke Fenhaus and Tony Stewart put on an incredible show, and they battled extremely well. And then Tony Stewart led a few laps, and then Luke Fenhaus pretty much kept the lead once again. And then the second caution would come out, the second caution race would come out for the second fun flag break, and they would go racing for a little bit once again. And then with around 45 laps to go in the event, we would see the first caution for incident in the main event. Michael Waltrip had some damage earlier in the race, and he basically spun out. And because of that, it wanted you to stop on the racetrack, and they bring out the next caution of this race. We then go racing once again with Fenhaus and Stewart, once again battling incredibly. And then back in the pack, while these two were putting on one of the best shows I have seen so far this year, Paul Tracy and Ernie Francis were getting into the back of each other. Tempers were flaring once again between Paul Tracy and Ernie Francis Jr. We see them get jacked up. I think also Hailie Deegan was involved in those incidents as well, and that would cause some issues. They would fall back up to this point. And then around 30, 20 laps ago, like I said, Hailie Deegan and Paul Tracy were about. Hailie was trying to get back up the front, and they had issues around 20 laps ago, but they still kept it green up to this point. And then the final caution, the final fun flag of this race would come out with around 15 laps ago for an incident basically between, for the fun flag caution came out once again. And because of this, we'd restart with 12 laps to go in the event. And remember, caution laps did not count. Only green flag laps counted in the event. So it looked like we were going to see a pretty clean finish. And then on the restart, we would see issues between Greg Biffle, Hailie Deegan, and Castro Neves. Apparently, Hailie Deegan may have gotten into the back of Greg Biffle, unfortunately, and then he unfortunately tagged Castro Neves, and that would bring out the second caution out for incident in this race. And then we go racing with their guns again with 12 laps to go, and then Fenhaus was able to clear Tony Stewart, and then Marco Andretti, whose car was really starting to come in at the end of the event, his car really started showing up, and it looked like he was going to have a chance to run Luke Fenhaus down. And then with around 2 laps to go, actually on the last lap, it looked like Luke Fenhaus was going to run away with the thing and score the victory. On the last lap, Hailie Deegan got into Paul Tracy, and Paul Tracy kind of came. I'll talk about that in some more quick. In my personal opinion, I think, in my opinion, yes, Deegan kind of came up and kind of dumped into Paul Tracy, but he's had it coming all season long with the way he's been racing and how the drivers have been kind of feeling. He's had it coming for a long time still. Hailie Deegan was kind of at fault for the incident, but he's really had it coming. He also kind of came down or two. So I think it was just overall call a racing incident. I think it's somewhat on both of their faults that they kind of called this incident. I'm just going to overall call it a racing incident. But unfortunately, quite a few cars, unfortunately, got collected in the event, including Michael Waltrip, Willie T-Ribs, and Julio Castroneves also got damaged in this event. And it looked like Hailie Deegan was going to have to go to the rear of the field, but since she was 100% at fault of this situation, she got to retain her position, and she would restart fourth. We go back racing on the only overtime restart event with Luke Fenhaus on the inside and Marco Andretti on the outside. Marco Andretti got an incredible restart and is actually able to clear Luke Fenhaus, and he was eventually able to pull away for a little bit. Then on the last lap, Luke Fenhaus, who really, in my opinion, was best car most tonight, was about to try to send it, but he kept it extremely clean. And coming off the final corner, Marco Andretti steals a win from Luke Fenhaus, and he pulls ahead and wins his first SRX race of the 2021 SR race season and holds off Luke Fenhaus in charging for the victory. In my opinion, did Marco Andretti overall have the best car of the event? No, I honestly think that Luke Fenhaus, Tony Stewart probably had the best cars of the event, but their cars kind of fell out. And if that caution doesn't come out on the last lap, honestly, I think that we would see a victory from Luke Fenhaus, but Marco Andretti, the Andretti name, wins once again. It's great to see that Marco Andretti tonight was able to score the victory. I mean, I like Marco quite a bit, and he's doing incredibly a good job. And I think he's been better overall in stock cars than he was a lot of time in his IndyCar. Maybe he should have started his career off in stock cars. I'm not sure, but Marco Andretti, really happy to see the Andretti name win once again. Regardless of if you like Marco or not, it's great to see the Andretti name back in victory lane once again. So anyway, let's go ahead and go through the race results of tonight's event. So Marco Andretti wins tonight's SRX race. Luke Fenhaus finished second. Luke Fenhaus, the guy deserves a ride in a top-tier ride. I know he's only 17 years old. He put on one of the best shows I think I've ever seen for real. That was an incredible action, an incredible show by Luke Fenhaus tonight. If that caution, like I said, is coming on the last lap, Luke Fenhaus is the one going to victory lane, but these should have his eyes and ears, and there's a million people that were watching this event tonight, so I think a lot of people are definitely watching the event, and I think a lot of people took notice of Luke Fenhaus, especially with this incredible race in the Slinger Nationals. His name, he should not be, regardless of the outcome, he put on an incredible show tonight, and it was incredible to see Luke Fenhaus almost win. I wish he would have won tonight. He's my guy. I was rooting for it. It would have been cool to see him win, but man, coming home second tonight in tonight's SRX event, he should be proud of it. He did an incredible job. Tony Stewart finished the third. Tony Stewart had an incredible race as well. Best race I think he's had on pavement since the first event. He's kind of been struggling on some of these pavements. He really struggled in the Indianapolis Raceway Park a couple weeks ago. But man, in all honesty, Tony Stewart did a really good job tonight. Ran top 5, was really competitive most of the evening. He finished his third in tonight's event. Hailie Deegan finished his fourth. Hailie Deegan was fast, and she should have won a heat if they don't throw the fun flag caution. But I'll admit, she was a little bit of hectic, a little bit chaotic at points in this event, was making some aggressive movements, but also points Paul Tracy had issues in the event, and she had it coming, Paul Tracy did, and on my opinion, I think she's kind of at fault for the incident, but at the same time, she bounced back to fourth, solid finisher her tonight. Bobby Labonte finished his fifth. This is probably the most competitive race I've seen out of Bobby Labonte so far. He ran top 3 or top 4. A majority of them was really running well in the heats as well. Great run for Bobby Labonte tonight. Ernie Francis Jr. finished 6th. I think this is the least competitive I've seen Ernie Francis Jr. so far throughout the year, but he still has been incredible. If you have your worst finish be 6th, I think I'd take that. Great run for Ernie Francis Jr. Willie T-Ribs, his first time not finishing in the back, finished his 7th. Again, he ran in the back most of the night like he normally does, but all the cautions, the chaos, and all that stuff, he finished 7th in tonight's event. Great finish from him overall. 8th place finisher, Gray Biffle. Gray Biffle had a pretty solid run going, and that caution, that crash, kind of affected him, unfortunately, but he finished 8th in tonight's SRX event. Bill Elliott finished his 9th. Julio Castroneves finished 10th. Paul Tracy finished 11th. And Paul Tracy, in his post-race interview, after the situated Deegan, he was mad. He's a guy, I like Paul Tracy. I'll say this. I do like that Paul Tracy is not afraid to speak his mind. I do like that about Paul Tracy. He's always been like that. He's not afraid to speak his mind. I do respect it a lot. Do I agree that he was reasons that he kind of caused wreck? Yes, at the same time, I understand that he's frustrated again because he was close to having a decent run. He's up to 4th, which is really, really crazy to see. And then Michael Waltrip would finish 12th in tonight's event. So overall, let's go ahead and talk about the race overall. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, this is potentially not what only the best, I would say so far, for sure, the best SRX race we've seen so far this year. But I would honestly argue that this is up there as potentially one of the best races of all races I've seen so far this year in all motorsports. for almost 130 laps of the event, for almost the whole entire event. They were side by side for the race lead, and there were so many incredible battles at Slinger. I think the first two events went on the pavement tracks. They kind of been a little bit lackluster. Indianapolis Racing Park was really dominated by Early Francis Jr. There was really nothing happening in the events. This time around, though, they were beating and banging, going back and forth throughout the entire event, side by side, between Andretti points and Fenhausen points, and then Stewart and Luke Fenhaus. They were putting on incredible shows tonight. My score of tonight's event in the SRX, I am going to give tonight's SRX event a 9.7 out of 10. I am almost giving tonight's perfect score. The only reason I'm not giving this race personally a perfect score is the fun flags. That's one issue I got to have with it. There's a couple issues I do have with the SRX, though. Number one, fun flags. Did not need to have fun flags when you have incredible battles going on for the lead. You don't need to have a lap limit. You can just screw the lap limit. Let these guys battle out because, in my opinion, if the fun flag cautions didn't come out, I think we would still see some incredible racing. But that's really one of my only gripes. The other gripe, next season, we need to have more cars in the field. I think we need to have more competition. The more cars you have in the field, the better. Don't get me wrong, I think for the first year, 12 is fine. Next year, increase the field either up to 16 or 20. Other than that, that's the only issues I've had. This, though, has been the best SRX race I've seen so far of the 2020 SRX season. And another thing I'd like to see is maybe next year as well, maybe extend the schedule for the SRX. I think that they're going to have more inventory, that they're going to be able to run 8 or even up to 10 events. I like to see more races in the SRX. I think it makes the summer a lot more fun and a lot more interesting, and you're not going to have that Olympic break to really affect those outcome of people watching it. So in my personal opinion, let's go ahead and extend the SRX season next year, and let's go ahead and have more cars in the field. Other than that, I really enjoyed tonight's event, and this is almost a near-perfect event in the SRX, one of the best races so far this year. So, anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching tonight's SRX race review. Please subscribe to the channel, Turkish on notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow my Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Support Patreon. Links in the description below for that. And comment your thoughts on tonight's SRX race. What are your thoughts on tonight's SRX race? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know your score in the comments below of tonight's event. And congratulate Mark Andretti on winning his first SRX event. Let me know that in the comments below. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. And I'll see you guys next time with some great NASCAR and SRX content. Take care, everybody.